Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rigel, and in this corner of the internet, I make design and lifestyle related videos. So if any of those topics interest you, consider subscribing and hit that bell for notifications. It's been forever since my family and I went on vacation, especially with COVID still hanging amongst us, but since all of us are vaccinated, we thought it was due time to have a family vacation. So with this, we decided to do a road trip to Southeast Missouri. On our first day, we headed out on the road and we stopped in to check into our hotel room. We had a little window that looked out onto a little lake. Then we headed into town to Bonne Terre. Okay, so we are here at the Bonne Terre mines, and this mine actually constitutes 70% of the US's lead production, which I thought was really cool. This ran for 100 years and closed in 1960, so it started in 1860. So in this building, we went ahead and got our tickets in order for us to go into the mine tour. And before you even go in, they have this cute little setup of a skeleton who's been in the mine for too long, and as well as the safety record for the Bonne Terre mine of people they've lost. Inside, not only can you purchase tickets, but they also have a gift shop. In the gift shop, they have a lot of different memorabilia as well as knickknacks that things you would typically see in the mine, but there's also different gifts that you could also pick up as well if you wanted to. They also have some artifacts that I thought were really cool that came from the mine. There was a little article piece that showed people that worked there before, and then just some of the other tools that they might have used while they were working there, as well as a lot of different minerals and stones that they would have dug up. And in this little TV you can see the inside of where we're going. So this is the entrance of the Bonne Terre mine. It was so much bigger than I thought. We had to go down a slope from a certain building, and then within that we went down a few flights of stairs. Now I'm going to try to give you a few facts that I do remember from the very helpful tour guide. So there are 5 levels to the mine. The 5 levels are 450 feet underneath the earth, and 200 feet below the surface is the water that they kind of made themselves because the water was pumped in. Before, when the miners were working there in the mines, they would pump out the water daily. In the past, they did have elevators running in the mines only for the first and the second level. Now here's a little cute thing from the tour guides. They were pretty proud about this. They actually have a little garden growing over there inside of the mines. Now, the tour guide told me that he has 14 coffee trees he planted, and he was pretty excited because one of them actually started to flower, and he expects to kind of harvest the beans over in the spring, which apparently takes 5 years to grow, so you know, more power to him. This lake inside of the mine is one of the largest subterranean lakes in the world. Now in the lakes, there are actually scuba divers that get to explore the mine. Scuba divers are able to just kind of go down between each level, going through the whole elevator shaft. I don't know, I don't think I'm brave enough to actually go and do something like that, even though it kind of sounds fun. Now, although this cave used to have a lot of lead, the water is surprisingly safe to drink. Now it has a lot of calcium in it, which I've been told. However, you know, if there were to be an emergency disaster and the town needed, you know, emergency disaster relief for water, they're actually certified to give the town this type of water that they could just drink out of. Who knew? So now we're back onto the surface, and I'm basically just showing you a little bit of the mine town that the workers kind of had up in their working conditions, and then just some of the tools that they used down in the mines whenever they were pretty much excavating and gathering rocks and lead. After we finished the mine, we decided to stop at a little neighboring town called Caledonia and decided to check out their old village mercantile that's been around since 1909. So going into this place, it looks really cool. There are a bunch of antiques right as you come. This place has so much personality and so many things to look at. The first floor is basically where all of their sweet treats are. So there's a bunch of candy to your heart's content. And they also have ice cream in which they serve. There's also a huge collection of chocolate truffles, as well as baked goods and fudge. Now I believe the antiques down here, you are not able to purchase them. They're more for decorational face value. But other than the sweets, they also have other gifts that you could just pick up, like pop or honey jars, jams, things like that. And of course, because we are here and there is ice cream, it was very hard to resist not getting a cone. And while you're there eating the ice cream, you can actually sit down and play some music from a jukebox. Now on the second floor is where all the antiques are that are purchasable, and there are several different little rooms. This little guy here I thought was really cute. It was a little cow, and then next to it was like a butter churned lamp. I mean, how could you not fawn over that? And then I also saw these old women's antique clothing, as well as different decorative hats and shoes. Oh, and this was probably my favorite thing out of all the antiques I saw. It was kind of like a tea set that looked reminiscent of a tomato or a strawberry, I can't really tell. And then I saw these old photographs that came with a bunch of vintage cameras. And looky here, there is also a little guide to Kodak that has little illustrations to go along with it. Each room in this antique mercantile just kind of has its own different personality. Once our little exploration was over, since we are in little towns, things kind of wind down early in the day, so we decided to head back to the hotel, and I took a little dip in the little bit of a questionable pool before our second day. Our second day was a full day starting at Farmington at an antique mall. I just love going into antique stores and antique malls and, thrift stores in general, so this was something that you should not pass up if you are also interested in those things. There's a lot of cool things to find and just kind of see how life was like back in the past. I saw this really cool vintage sewing machine, as well as this, I guess, money counter in my favorite color, and this really old pinball machine. Oh, and this was really cool. I really enjoyed seeing this as a graphic designer. There was so much packaging design in these tins. I mean, look at the typography on this. And then it was also kind of nice to see that they kind of set up a vanity as if someone was using it. Among my finds, I also found this old Life magazine from the 1970s. I believe it said 1971. Now, why I looked into it and why I kept the footage of me going through it was because of the cigarette ads. I wasn't really expecting to see cigarette ads in the 70s. I thought they kind of stopped that a lot earlier, but I guess not. But not only did I see one cigarette ad, but I saw another cigarette ad. And within these cigarette ads, I kind of noticed that most of the advertisements had a guy and, well, a man and a woman who were relatively young kind of hanging out. And there, you know, there's a third cigarette ad. And not just 3, but 4 ads for cigarettes. Yeah, except this one had a cowboy in the back. I think Western movies were really popular at that time. Anyways, back to cool things from the booth I saw. This was actually my favorite booth because it had a lot of traveling stuff, like traveling books, as well as a lot of hiking books and guides. And I don't know, I just really like the aesthetic of this. And it's really cool to see in booths, you know, just knowing possibly of what the past person used to have and what their life was probably like with the items that they left behind. And when I was looking through all of the items, they did date from the 1950s to, I believe, the early 1970s. And then this one, oh, this was a gem. I'm sure you've seen this in my TikTok before, but I found this really old cookbook from 1958 on dinner parties. It had a chock full of information and really cool illustrations, and so I decided to get 3 of them. After a long time at the antique store, we decided to go over to the factory diner to get some lunch. And they had a lot of choices to choose from. I went ahead and got the Hungry Man's breakfast, which consisted of hash browns, 4 bacon strips, 2 eggs, and 2 biscuits with gravy, and a side of hot chocolate. So I just put the yolk on my bacon strips. I feel like it gives more flavor. Do any of you do that as well, or have you tried it, or do you think it's too weird? I don't know. It tastes marvelous. Anyways, the lunch was great, and it gave us that full belly in order for us to head over to our next destination. Before that, we did check a little farm store, and I saw these cool saddles. But now it is time for hiking. So the first stop for hiking is Elephant Rock State Park. Now this was only a mile hike, and it was really easy to hike. It was just a paved road, except we decided to take a little shortcut, and within that you have to walk up, well, climb up a lot of rocks. I mean, it's called Elephant Rocks. I'm at one of the tops of Elephant Rocks right now. It's kind of a pretty steep climb up here, but a good exercise nonetheless. And the climb was totally worth the view. Please excuse my out of breathness. I mean, it was a really steep climb, so just keep that in mind. Now, while I was there in Elephant Rocks, I also noticed this really interesting thing where it seemed like a lot of people carved into the rocks. I'm not entirely sure what they used, but there were a lot of writings in there to date when they went and what their names were, which I thought was really interesting. After our hike at Elephant Rocks, it is now going on to our second destination, and you see this tower here. This is the park rangers lookout tower that we were allowed to climb. So I did decide to climb it. I just couldn't go all the way up to the top, but this is the view that we saw, and we are in Tomsog State Park. This is just a little lookout point before you get to the Minnesauk Falls Trail. The Minnesauk Falls is supposed to have the largest waterfall in Missouri. So this is the Minnesauk Falls, and as you can see, it is not running, unfortunately. It was very rocky terrain trying to get here. We're at the halfway point of 3 miles, so we still have another 1.5 miles to go. This is basically the waterfall. This tiny piece is the closest thing. Yeah, sorry I didn't have actual footage of the big waterfall running. It was a little disappointing for me too, but the views were still really great to see. And after all of that hiking, we were pretty tired and we pretty much went to bed. Then we started our third and final day, which wasn't too much. We actually came across these really big elephants, and I believe a bull that looked very different, so I decided to show some footage of that. And then we also stopped at St. Francois Park for lunch before we went back to where we came from, because it'll be a pretty long drive. And Milo did come with us on the trip. He had a little walk around the little state park and he was pretty pooped, so you know. Overall though, I enjoyed our vacation and I hope you had some fun too, just coming along with us.